So if you're new to comic book collecting, you're going to want to stick around for this. Lately, I've been seeing that there's been a lot of new people coming into the hobby, coming into the community of reading comic books and collecting them. So I wanted to give you some things and some pointers on like different ways you can actually read comic books on a budget, because if you're reading single issue comic books, it can get very, very expensive. So here we go. Single issue comic books. Man, there's some pros and there's definitely some cons, but let's talk about the pros first. The pros are every week when your book comes out or your title comes out, like Power Girl or Wonder Woman or whatever your title may be, you get to find out what's going on with those characters that week they come out. Cons are, man, it can get kind of expensive. From the price points of these comic books run anywhere from $2.99 all the way up to $6.99 a comic book. Yes, $6.99. That's the bigger types of books that are like magazine styles, but nonetheless, it can get expensive. So with that being said, I wanted to show you some alternatives on how to still read comic books but on a budget. And these are two different ways you can read collective issues, or this is an arc of a title. So we got Nightwing Leaping into the Light, which is a hardcover. Pretty cool. It's got a slipcover on it, art on both sides. Sometimes they add a little bit of extra stuff like variant covers and stuff inside of the book, but it's really freaking nice, durable. It looks freaking awesome. Also, you can do them in trade paperbacks. It's the same thing, but they're in paperbacks. But one thing that I really love that Image Comics does is that any volume one coming out of Image Comics is only $9.99. Only $9. So if you wanted to read the first arc and kind of dabble in it and see if you like it, you didn't spend, $14.99 or $16.99, whatever that price point for those 5 or 6 issues for the first arc. And then you can collect books as well. Gotta wait a little bit longer for this style to come out. Omnibuses and compendiums. This is compendium 1 of Invincible, which collects issues 0 through 47. And the cover price for this is $64.99. Now, it seems like, wow, that's kind of expensive. But if you think about it, especially for this book, because you're definitely not going to find the first book for a decent price because of just the popularity of this character and this story. It's up to like $400 or $500 to find a number one. So yes, I mean, you're finding 47 issues for $64. I paid less than that. I think it's like $30 on in-stock trades. But you got to wait a little bit longer for something like this to get up there, and then for it to complete to be into like an omnibus or compendium. But that also saves you a bunch of money. You can read your comic books digitally on your iPad or even on your phone or your computer. But again, you got to wait a little bit longer than maybe when like the collective issues come out is when they start adding them onto the Marvel app and the DC app. There's an app out there now for indie comics as well, but that's an alternative that you can pay monthly, a subscription for reading comic books, or you can pay a whole year. And again, I know it's up to like $150 some for the entire year, but just think about like all the comics you have access to reading them digitally. So that could save you some money there too. Last but not least, I have 2 different ways that you can read comic books for free. Yes, I said free, gratis. And if you have a library card, which I know most of us do, you can read comic books at your library. Yes, your library probably has a plethora of like hardcovers and collected issues, just like I was talking about trade paperbacks or single issues. Sometimes they give them away. So check out your local library. Also, they have apps that you can go to, the Libby app, and there's another app where you can go on there and use your library card and check out books and read them digitally there as well. There's another option, which is a pirated site, which I'm kind of on the fence whether or not I was going to, discuss it or not, but people have already been talking about it. But it's a pirated website that puts out comic books the day they come out for modern comics, but it's a great tool to archive comic books that you're probably never going to get your hands on, because you're never going to get your hands on a number 1 Batman or a number 1 Superman. So if you want to read what number 1 Superman is all about, you can read it on this website. But again, like, Artists and writers don't get paid unless people pick up those comic books. It's the same thing with musicians. People, they don't get paid unless you buy their albums or support them, you know? So I'm like, I'm 50-50 on it, but I use it for scans and I use it to read comic books that I know I'm going to be picking up. So I feel like I'm not hurting. But in a sense, it is a great tool to archive older books that most of humanity is never going to get their hands on. If you have any questions, feel free and ask me. And if I don't know the answer to your question, then I will find someone to answer that question for you. Alrighty, folks, until next time, read your comics.